Hey, what's going on, guys? This is AndrewChicken, and welcome back to another video. Valve just released a minor balance patch addressing a bunch of different issues that were brought up as a result of the item shop rework last week. There's a bunch of stuff to go over, so if you want to read along, the patch notes will be linked down below in the description. So up first, let's talk about the general changes. There are two big changes that result in the power dynamic between weapon builds and spirit builds now being slightly more in favor of gun builds in regards to the meta. The first big change is to weapon investment scaling. If you didn't know, as you buy weapon items here in this category, you will gain more weapon power. So as you can see down here on the bottom left, I have invested 9.6k into weapon items, and so now I have a 58% weapon damage boost. And this damage scaling has been improved. So previously it started at a minimum of 6% and went up to a maximum of 88%. Now it starts at a minimum of 7% and goes up to a maximum of 93%. So just more gun damage for buying gun items. However, arguably an even bigger change is the global 7% spirit scaling reduction that Valve has applied to the game. So every hero, as they get spirit power, will have their abilities scale up in strength, and that scaling for every single character in the game has gone down by 7%. A great example of this is Yamato. Previously, before the update, she would get 2 damage on the power slash for every 1 spirit power that she accumulated. But now she only gets 1.9 damage on the power slash for every 1 spirit power that she gets, and it's probably even a little bit less than that. They like to round these numbers on the UI here. So this is a massive nerf to just abilities across the board. Spirit builds will still probably be pretty strong, but they just won't be as oppressive as they were before. So now let's talk about a few hero nerfs before we get into the changes to the items. So up first we have Lady Geist, who has arguably hit the hardest this update. Not only does the 7% spirit scaling reduction globally hurt Lady Geist because she's a big spirit damage machine, but they've also done a multitude of nerfs to Malice. So first of all, big change, Malice now costs 6% of your current HP to launch these blood shards, and they've also reduced the damage pretty drastically. So the base damage has been reduced from 32 down to 25, and they have also reduced the spirit scaling on top of the pre-existing 7%, by the way, from 0.72 down to 0.6. So pretty big nerf there. And the tier 2 Malice, which gave a damage amp, now has gone from 40 damage down to 30 damage. So really, really big nerf to Malice. But ultimately, it still retains the consistency, which is, in my opinion, one of the most valuable things about it. And the actual 15% damage amplification remains untouched. So if you have good self-sustain, which you probably will this patch, there's a lot of really good sustain items, then this will probably still be pretty strong, but still some pretty heavy nerfs, and especially the damage component, the direct damage that Malice does, is now significantly worse. Shiv has received 2 nerfs on top of the previous nerfs that he got in the big item store update. If you remember already, Shiv got 2 nerfs to Killing Blow that reduced the enemy health threshold, so now you have a 25% enemy health threshold with the tier 2 upgrade. It's just harder to execute people now, but on top of that, they have also decided this update to reduce Slice and Dice's damage from 100 down to 80, which this is insanely oppressive in the early lanes, so I understand why they're doing this. They have also reduced his bullet growth, which is referring to the damage that he gets on his weapon for each of these level ups. So previously it was 0.246, now it is 0.22, so a damage nerf to his gun, which is a bit of a shame because I have a build in the works, an update to my tank Shiv build, that also makes use of a lot of weapon items. But I suppose the update to the weapon investment scaling will hopefully make up for this, and the build will hopefully still be pretty strong, so stay tuned for that. After that, we have some Vyper nerfs, which definitely was not on my bingo card of things that I expected to happen, but yeah, apparently Vyper is getting a reduction to the healing reduction that she applies on lethal venom from 60% down to 40%, and they have also reduced the tier 3 slither resistances from 25% down to 20%, so she should be a little easier to kill during slither, and the lethal venom won't be quite as disgusting when it comes to its anti-healing. coming. On the flip side, a nerf that I definitely saw coming was Pocket's ultimate. They massively buffed it in the item store rework because debuff remover is no longer able to remove Pocket's ultimate or any other ultimate effects. So yeah, that was just a massive consistency buff, and on top of that, they also massively buffed the damage over time it did, albeit at the cost of the burst that it does at the start. But still, huge net buffs overall, and so to compensate, they have nerfed the duration from 14 seconds down to 12 seconds. I think this is completely fair, and honestly, the most sensible nerf of the entire update. Finally, Kelvin. The Arctic Beam is becoming even worse. Oh no. Not only, like I said, is it affected by the global spirit scaling reduction, it is also losing 10 DPS just at base, from 60 down to 50, so this will be even less oppressive in lane, and it'll probably be even worse to build for a beam build, like I showcased in a somewhat recent video. Now, let's talk about items. So up first, we have some changes to the gun items, a lot of buffs in here. Fleetfoot is getting 1 second cooldown reduction from 12 down to 11. Very nice. They have also buffed Split Shot, which is one of the most interesting new items. This now provides 5 weapon multi-shot instead of 4, so we can grab this, press Z, and now, look at that, it's actually a nice, even cone of spread. I really like this. Previously it was 4, and so it would shoot 1 to the side, to the left of your weapon, and then 2 to the right. It didn't really feel right. It felt very, very strange. And so now, it's a nice, even spread, and this item is even more powerful now. Especially if you, want to play some Flat Cannon Viscous. Oh, that is so silly. Active Reload has also had its cooldown buff from 14 seconds down to 12 seconds. However, we do have some nerfs still. So, Headhunter. This is the tier 3 item that I was also going to showcase in the Shiv video. Dang it. This has had its bonus headshot damage reduced from 150 down to 120. Still much higher than Headshot Booster, which it upgrades from, but a little bit less burst on this. However, the consistency of that healing is still untouched. Spirit Rend, which is the upgrade to Spirit Shredder bullets, has had its cooldown increase from 2 seconds to 2.5 seconds, which drastically reduces the consistency. That is actually a pretty big cooldown nerf, because you want to try and land headshots as quickly as possible and build up as many stacks of this as possible. So, yeah, definitely hurting Spirit Rend there. Cult of Sacrifice, another super interesting new item that I've actually been experimenting with a lot, has been slightly nerfed. All they did to it was reduce the bonus health you get from 350 down to 300. You still get that 150% bonus souls, you still get a really long buff, you still get the fire rate and the ability range. It's still a very interesting item. I have been enjoying it a lot, especially because it upgrades from monster rounds, which is super good for early farming. So yeah, I assume we'll still see plenty of this. And then finally, Capacitor, which is an item that upgrades from Tesla bullets, another new item, has been nerfed by quite a lot. The cooldown has gone from 30 seconds up to 40 seconds. Very big cooldown increase. I'll be honest, I haven't seen much of this item, but I just really need to play more of this update. There's so much experimentation still going on, and I guess this effect was just too powerful. The green items are the ones seeing the fewest balance changes, which I think is very interesting because I actually think a lot of these are pretty powerful. So let's talk about Divine Barrier up first. This is now a tier 4 item, by the way. If you didn't see that, it got changed from a tier 2 to a tier 4, and it's had its cooldown increase from 36 to 45 seconds, so less uptime on removing all non-stun debuffs from your target. And they have also increased, they've actually buffed Inhibitor. They've buffed it. The duration now is 3 seconds, up from 2.5, and that's it for our vitality items. So very surprising there, at least in my opinion. But yeah, finally we can talk about our Mystic items here, our Spirit items. There are quite a few changes here. Mystic Regen is another new item that was pretty powerful in the early lane because it gave you a lot of health regeneration, and the health regen also scales with Spirit, funnily enough, although barely, but still it does. And this has had its duration nerfed from 6 to 5 seconds, and they also had the Spirit power scaling reduced from 0.06 to 0.05. So double nerf to this very powerful early lane item. Silence Wave, which is a pretty scary new active item in the tier 3 category, has had its cooldown increase from 24 to 28 seconds. Fair enough. Tank Buster has also apparently been fixed. It had a bug where it was working on the mid-boss and objectives, so you could use your spirit damage to absolutely chunk certain objectives. I find that to be very funny. I wish I got to use that while I had the chance, because yeah, that sounds absolutely busted, but it makes sense. DK has also received some pretty big changes. So the spirit power scaling has been reduced from 0.07 to 0.05, and this scales the bleed damage, so pretty powerful nerf already. They have also nerfed the cooldown from 22 seconds to 24 seconds, and they have reduced the cast range spirit scaling, which, holy crap, I actually didn't realize that was a thing, from 0.16 to 0.14. It doesn't actually indicate this little, you know how it puts like a little purple star icon for when something has spirit scaling? It doesn't indicate that for the cast range here. That's really interesting. That seems like a bit of an oversight. I had no idea that was a thing. Anyways, moving on, Boundless Spirit, a pretty popular item I've seen recently, has had its healing nerfed from 100 down to 75. That is actually kind of big, but, and I actually only learned this recently, you can still use it to proc healing tempo if you want. Someone was very helpful in the comments and pointed out that the Wraith player who I saw buying healing tempo, who I was very confused by, they were getting healing tempo procs off of Boundless Spirit, which is just a crazy synergy, so that's pretty fun. Mercurial Magnum, another very popular item right now, has been nerfed. The fire rate bonus has been reduced from 30 to 25%, and the spirit power scaling, which is the big thing, has been reduced from 0.6 to 0.5. And after the 7%, it looks like that is now 0.46. So, yeah, pretty drastic nerf to the spirit scaling on Mercurial Magnum, but it makes sense. I've seen a lot of this item recently. And finally, to cap things off, Spirit Burn has been nerfed from 80% healing reduction to 70% healing reduction, which is definitely big, but 70% healing reduction is still a lot. And, ooh, yeah, this still seems like a pretty powerful item in that regard. But anyways, that's gonna do it for today's videos. So if you liked this video, if you found it to be helpful, then make sure to drop a like and subscribe for more Deadlock content coming from me. I'm gonna be uploading a bunch of videos where I'm experimenting with different builds with a new item store this week, so don't miss out on that. And also let me know what you think about the balance changes here in the comment section down below. They've certainly done a lot this update. And so, yeah, let's see how the meta continues to evolve. I'm super excited to play and try new things. But with all that being said, thank you guys for watching. I will see you all next time. Peace out.